fucking deer. Look at them. Finally, there's somebody else outside that's got their headlamp on and recognizes that there's wild animals storming upon our tent site here. There's like a whole herd of deer. Like, it seems like hundreds, but they're like just wandering around. It's like they want to challenge the tents, and now finally I heard the woman up the way go, "Hello," and she went out there and she realized it was a deer, like right by her tent and like everywhere else. So it's not just me. Monday, May 2nd, day 45, 8:20 a.m. The plan is to do 16 miles today to the last shelter before Damascus, which I think gives me about 10 to finish into Damascus, which is fine because my check-in's not till early afternoon. As you could tell by the opening series there, I was up all night practically. It's funny, I was telling a guy by the story, by the fire Mango. He asked about bears, and I said, yeah, I think I've seen some bears, blah, blah, blah. And as I was telling the story, right beyond my tent, we see something. There's a deer feeding. So I go over there, and I see like 3 tails bob away. Well, all night long, these deer were challenging my site and trying to get through camp, or I don't know what, or just foraging, and they didn't like me being there, and they were stomping their hooves, and I kept going out and scattering them, and they were like coming right back. They were relentless all night long, and you hear them circling, and it wouldn't bother me so much as I'm like, which one of these is the bear? So like I'm sitting there, I got up out of bed like 4 or 5 times to see what the hell else was going on. Well, that woman, Wild Kingdom, her name happened to be, because what kept going through my head and my laying there in the tent was, what am I, Dr. Doolittle? What is this, Omaha's Wild Kingdom? Mutual Omaha's Wild Kingdom? And lo and behold, her name's Wild Kingdom. That was like what the hell's going on in my life? But she validated it. She came out, she saw the deer. Somebody was walking around with a headlamp. Somebody was banging a pot at one point, I think. And then, rumor has it, a bear came through like 3 in the morning or something like that, and I didn't see it or hear it, but at one point something ran past my tent. Like, it had to be about that time. I thought it was like charging me. Dude, I was like, hey! Like, woke up out of my sleep, and it kind of like went right through. And maybe that was the bear that went up by the shelter and was trying to get everybody's food bags. But the far out comments were saying that there's bear activity at that shelter. So I didn't sleep, and I feel okay anyway. So I'm expecting, and I'm wrong every day, but I'm expecting this to be a relatively mild hike with very few steep climbs. So anyway, day 45. Trail magic. So that deer sighting last night that lasted hours through the night only raises the question in my mind of whether there was any bear at all at some of my previous sites, or whether they were all just brave deer that don't scatter like I'm used to. There's no knowing, and there was talk that a bear came through later anyway, so I don't know how you tell them apart. It was recommended that I start sleeping with earplugs so I don't hear them destroying everything in the town. Alright, I got over 4 miles to go to the last shelter before Damascus, which leaves me 10 miles. I can never remember the name of this shelter. Abingdon. I'll straighten it out later. Or you can look it up yourselves. First stone wall I've seen on the Appalachian Trail. We must be getting close to pasture country. Looks like we used to have a fire tower here. And that would have been the phone service or telegraph. Some kind of shit pipe. There's a shelter coming up here a bit. And then the next shelter is where I'm going. That's a sketchy one. That's a shit shack. That's McQueen's Knob Shelter. And I'm heading to Abingdon Gap Shelter. And you know everybody's gonna be there. So, I don't know if I mentioned this in a previous video, but my grandmother used to give me the Farmer's Almanac every Christmas. I don't know if it was a novelty gift or she was just trying to impart her views or ways or historical references on me. They were dairy farmers, lived through the Depression, had farm, and anyway, I looked at the Farmer's Almanac online before I was planning this trip, and they said it was going to be a dry summer. And other than the Smokies, I can see that now. So I don't know whether it's some people rely on the Farmer's Almanac and believe what it says, and I don't know, some people probably just can prove that it's useless, but I don't know. I guess I tend to believe it a little bit. And it has been dry, and water is becoming scarcer and scarcer. So I just passed up a pond hole at the base of that mountain coming up to that shelter there. And there's supposedly a spring off a cliff, 200-yard climb at Abingdon Gap. So I've got 2 full bottles of water and a sip of this left, so I could live till tomorrow. So I'll just try to water up at Abingdon Gap, and if there's no water, I have enough for cooking and enough to survive on before I get to Damascus. So I'm not in a death situation here. Plus I've got 2 Cokes from Trail Magic today, which probably further dehydrated me. All right, a mile and a half to go or so.